in some ways, it can be challenging and often daunting to walk into a room where, again, there isn't that, female mentor or someone that you can work with.
Yeah.
But it actually, as you move on in your career, becomes quite liberating, because I didn't need to fit into anyone's mold because there wasn't a mold there for me.
Good point.
And so I think it's...
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Few podcast. This is Madison. I am our co-host with Robert Schein, and we're coming to you live today with a very exciting episode. We are at our 2026 Confidence Summit at the beautiful Ritz-Carlton in Rancho Mirage, California. Today is going to be an amazing wealth edition with Stephanie Link and Shannon Saccocia. Stephanie Link is Chief Investment Strategist, Head of Investment Solutions, and Equity Portfolio Manager at Hightower Advisors, where she leads multiple equity strategies and works closely with advisory teams and clients to navigate markets and the economy. With more than 30 years of investment experience, she previously held senior leadership roles at Nuveen, The Street, and Prudential Equity Group, overseeing and managing billions in assets. Stephanie is a CNBC contributor and frequent on-air commentator, widely recognized for her market insights. She holds a finance degree from Boston College and has received numerous industry honors for her leadership and impact. Shannon is Managing Director and Chief Investment Officer, Wealth at Neuberger Berman, where she helps guide market views, asset allocation, and portfolio strategy for wealth clients. With decades of experience serving individuals, families, and advisors, she previously served as Chief Investment Officer at SVB Private and Boston Private Wealth, overseeing portfolio construction, asset allocation, and investment management. Shannon began her career in senior roles at Banyan Partners and Silverbridge Advisors. A Brandis graduate with CFA and Certified Investment Management Analyst designations, she is a regular CNBC contributor and lives in Boston with her husband and 2 children. I will waste no more time. Let's welcome Stephanie and Shannon on.
Well, welcome, Stephanie and Shannon. Thank you for being on the Few podcast.
Thanks for having us.
We just had Madison introduce both of you, and wow, amazing resumes, each to your own. So I'm excited to have this conversation with each of you on the Few podcast. So this is fun. Stephanie, welcome back. This is our second time. We're at the Confidence Summit Women, Wealth, and Wellness today, and both of you and the 3 of us are going to be up on the panel in just a little bit for our audience of another sold-out crowd here today in Rancho Mirage, California. So it's a lot of fun. So this is exciting, and you guys are loving the West Coast now, huh? Because the weather where you are is a little bit different than where we are.
Beautiful this morning. I mean, the sky was just amazing.
What's it like at home for you right now?
Gray and cold.
Okay.
And 15 inches of snow still
on
the ground.
Still on the ground.
All right, well, make certain you spend some time outside, and thank you for making the trip out.
Of course.
So let's get right into it. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to go through sort of a rapid fire conversation, so for our audience has the opportunity to really get to know you, as well as maybe some advice, insights, as we always do on the Few podcasts. But why don't we hear a little bit about Shannon first? Tell us a little bit about yourself so our audience gets to know you.
Sure. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of Wealth at Neuberger Berman. I've been in the industry for about 25 years. I spent the bulk of my career in wealth management, so really have held just about every investment management position that you can within a registered investment advisor, and really enjoying the opportunity to share my thoughts with, I think, what is probably the most important demographic of our industry now, which is women.
Such a great champion, supporter, but also very inspirational leader that women can look up to you as well. And speaking of that, there's Stephanie as well. Stephanie, tell us a little bit about yourself. The audience knows you, but if they're tuning in for the first time, I want them to get to know you too.
Sure. So I've been in the business for 35 years. I spent the first 16 years on the sell side, so I was a salesperson, and then I switched over, learned how to run money from Jim Cramer, worked with him for 7 years, and then I was on my way in terms of other outlets, Nuveen, and then now at Hightower. In Hightower, I'm actually doing a few different roles, and that's what we do at Hightower. We all have a bunch of different things, right? So I am Head of Investment Solutions, which is an internal asset manager. I run a portfolio, an equity portfolio as well. I'm also the Chief Investment Strategist, and Shannon and I are both contributors of CNBC. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's very synergistic. all of the jobs, at least the ones that I do. And people ask all the time about TV and how do you do it and manage it, and you do it too. But it really does help as a portfolio manager or as a strategist just to kind of think about what is happening on a real-time basis in the markets.
And the market cycle is 24/7.
In fact, it is.
It absolutely is.
It is never ending. In fact, yeah, even last night we got some news.
You sometimes do TV at 2 in the morning.
I do TV at 2 in the morning. West Coast time, East Coast is 5 a.m., which is natural and normal for you guys. But yeah, no, I'm on East Coast time, basically.
Yeah.
And you have to be in this industry.
Of course.
So.
I think that's pretty consistent. I mean, I think with everything happening, and then you've got to sort of look at what's happening in Europe and, especially coming out of London with fixed income, it does feel like you guys are a little bit earlier in the day here on the West Coast.
So we've all been I've been in the industry for 30 years, and remember the late 90s where we were going to 24/7 trading?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Right? That was the talk.
That
and
was.
Literally we had conversations in the halls of Wall Street of okay, who's going to cover the next shift, right? So thank God we didn't get to that just yet.
We might.
Like it's not.
We might.
We have
might.
Bitcoin, that's for sure.
That's right.
So let's get to my first question for both of you. And Shannon, we'll start with you. You've built an incredible career in a space that hasn't always been welcoming to women. What moment early on made you realize that I belong here?
It's a great question, and I think one of the things that I have really thought about over the course of the last, particularly 5 to 7 years, as I have continued to mentor women in this industry, and they often ask me that question, how did you know that you should be here? And I think it actually has less to do with competency and experience and more passion. So, I wasn't destined for the investment industry. I was actually pre-med in college and thought that I would be an epidemiologist. That was my chosen pursuit when I went into undergrad. And I think probably 6 or 7 years into my career, I had an opportunity to really take a step back. I was on an institutional consulting path. I was working with very large pensions and institutions, and I wanted to be closer to that decision-making process. I really wanted to work directly with people who were thinking about their financial situation. I had seen within my family folks make difficult and unfortunate financial decisions. And so my move from the institutional side to the private wealth world was really when I knew that I belonged, because I felt that I had purpose in my pursuit, and it changed the entire dynamic of my career because I was able to really focus on, my skills, which were emotional intelligence, connecting with people, understanding, and then being able to bring that analytical rigor into that process. I loved the combination of those, and I only got that once I started working directly with private clients.
Very insightful. Stephanie, when did you know you belong?
It's interesting that you said 6 to 7 years, because I would say absolutely it took 7 years for me to feel like I belonged. I started as an institutional sales assistant at a company called Dean Witter.
Yeah.
I was on the trading floor, and there were 500 people on the floor. I was one of 3 women on the floor. You couldn't wear pantsuits, you couldn't wear sleeveless, and you had to wear stockings during the summer, which really was terrible. So we've come a long way in some things, at least in that regard, but very intimidating for me for the first several years. I kept my head down, and I worked really hard, and I was the first one in, and I was the last one out, and I asked really dumb questions along the way, but it took a while for me to gain my confidence, and especially because there weren't a lot of women on the floor. So I actually left Dean Witter and I went to another firm to be an institutional salesperson. I was promoted, and I was driven, and I wanted to be number one, and I just kept my head down. And after a year there, this was at Prudential Equity Group, 24/7 job, I became the number one institutional salesperson at the firm. And my boss asked me to actually speak in front of the entire team, research, sales, and trading, about how I became number one. And I'm so humbled, and I was humbled, so it was really hard for me, but I knew if he asked me to do this, I could do it, and it was because I was successful.
And if I could add something, I think being a woman in this industry, and Steph, I don't want to speak for you, but in some ways it can be challenging and often daunting to walk into a room where, again, there isn't that, female mentor or someone that you can work with.
Yeah.
But it actually, as you move on in your career, becomes quite liberating, because I didn't need to fit into anyone's mold because there wasn't a mold there for me.
Good point.
And so I think it really allows you, if
advantage.
it becomes at least for me, it became an advantage that I could really use to say, okay, you haven't seen someone do this the way that I'm doing it, So I'm going to go ahead and do it my way.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's really good.
That's good. That is good.
All right, next question. You mentioned mentorship, but was there a mentor or a turning point in your career that gave you the confidence, if you will, to be in this world?
I would say that it was really good advice that I at the time did not want to hear. And I think that's the most important thing that a mentor can provide. I was a research person by background. It's actually why I was pre-med. I wanted to be a researcher. When I first came into the investment industry, I wanted to be kind of behind the curtain, if you will, a la Wizard of Oz. And my challenge is that I didn't even go to business school because I was so petrified of public speaking that I did not want to do the group work and have to present in front of all of my colleagues and fellow students. And I had a mentor early on in my career, probably about 10 years into my career, and I had been promoted several times doing research work, asset allocation, manager search selection, due diligence, equity portfolio management. And my mentor at the time said, you have these great ideas and you have all of these well-articulated arguments, and you don't bring the confidence in presenting those and being able to be persuasive with the rest of our group and the rest of our firm. And until you get over that hurdle, it's going to hinder your success. And I was devastated because I thought I was on this great career track and I was doing what I wanted to do. And so it really changed the way that I looked at challenging myself and being able to put myself out in front of people. And I devoted myself over the next 5 or 6 years to taking those opportunities. I mean, when CNBC called, I was like, I can't do TV. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But it was an example of really going back to that mentor's guidance and taking that, internalizing it. And now communication is one of the things that I work on most with the people that work for me and the people that I mentor, because it extends across everything that you do in life. But for me, that was really the turning point. And again, it was very hard to hear at the time.
You know what? We always need that gut punch, and it's really how you internalize it, right? Really, like you just said.
And for my mentor, I think it might have been difficult for him to deliver that to me because I was, so skilled in other areas.
That means he's paying attention and he cares, and he sees some great talent, inside you. So, yeah, I can see that. Stephanie, how about a mentor in your life?
Sure. Well, I've had a few. First and foremost, my father. My father is in the business. He's 89 years old and he's still an FA, part-time, and we still talk markets, and he's the growth guy and I'm like more of the value gal, and it's very strange, but I've learned a lot from him. Basically, just to be fearless and to be financially independent. He taught me that at age 10, and I didn't know what that meant. Nobody knew what that meant. At that age anyway. But it was something that was really driven inside me because I wanted to succeed. And he said, you're going to succeed, but just find an industry that actually pays you to succeed. So that was first. And then when I got to this first job that I had on the trading floor, I was very, very fortunate that I had 2 mentors. I worked for 2 institutional salespeople. They were both men, and they were probably in the business of like 30, 40 years. So they had a lot of experience. And I literally sat next to them every single day, this close, like all of us. And I would just pepper them with questions and questions. And they took me in, and they wanted me to succeed. And they gave me advice, and they stood up for me. And they were very, very willing to talk to senior management about me and who I was. And they were just my advocate. And to this day, I still stay in touch with them. I would not be here without learning from them. And it was also keep your head down, work hard, good things will come. And then when I left, I had another mentor when I went to Prudential Equity Group, my boss, and he taught me all about, when you're on the sell side, you don't necessarily think about stocks per se. When you're on the buy side, you're thinking about stocks all the time because you're thinking about managing. As a salesperson, you're just trying to sell and market analysts. And my boss at Prudential Equity Group would say, you have to know, you have to have some stocks that you like, you have to know what's going on, you have to get away from just every day just trying to drill to your clients, but to learn the markets as a whole and learn what you like and what you don't like. And not just stocks, also fixed income as well. And then I left the business on the sell side and went to the buy side, and there was Jim Cramer. And for 7 years, he taught me. He is crazy, there's no question, but he is brilliant. And he taught me so much about just managing money and talk about someone that works hard, having a work ethic like him. There's nobody that has a better one than he does. And so I just learned from all of these people throughout my career, and I've taken little bits from everyone.
That's awesome. I too started this career. I was 15 years old as an intern. This is, going all the way through, and then go down to Tucson for college, and now I'm 18 years old, and now I'm legit to be an intern, and I'm still at Merrill Lynch. Remember, the bullpen had the quad, and they had 4 change of career, 1 month rookie, but industry professionals, if you will. And so every single one of them would leave. One would go to Rotary, the next one would do, and so I would just sit in their desks as they rotate throughout the day or the week and just continue my 100 calls a day. One day, one of my mentors was Dale, and he was leaving, but he came back and he grabs his book. And I'm like, Dale, you're just going to the post office. Why do you need a book? He literally just stopped and goes, Robert, I got 3 places to be right now, right? And I'm going to be at the post office. I'm going to stand in line for 15 minutes. I'm not going to waste that 15 minutes. I'm going to learn something. Never waste a moment, never waste a minute. Always be learning, lifelong learner. That is impact, especially today. Now I just translate that to not only my kids, but the community of we are so fortunate to have a smartphone, right? With Audible, with everything that we could just at our fingertips. Back then we had to come back for our book, but it was just those little things where, and little by little you knock out a book here and there, and you're just gaining more and more momentum and knowledge as you go through your career. But those little mentors of those little moments of those, they care to spend some time and just give you those little insights. It's pretty cool. And it changes, little things change a lot.
I always tell people that are coming into the business, that's the number one goal. It's to find a mentor or mentors. And it could be anyone. It could be in the same industry. It could be a person that's outside another industry. It could be a family member, whatever it is. But it's so important to have that person that you can trust and lean on and to help you at the end of the day.
Thank you everyone for watching. This episode is sponsored by Blanky Schein Wealth Management. We've been in the Coachella Valley for 40 years and we're built for the next 40 years. You can find us at blankyshinewealthmanagement.com. And now back to the episode.
Let's talk about confidence and decision making. You guys are in the world of managing money, right? And the markets don't go just straight up, do they? So, like investing and in life, there's periods and times of market volatility. How do you guys, and there's fear everywhere, how do you guys stick to your guns?
I think it's all about having a process and not changing the process when the market doesn't go in your favor, or stock doesn't go in your favor, or an asset allocation doesn't go in your favor, and just sticking to your discipline. And to do a lot of homework and research so that you're looking for opportunities during chaos. Most people, they say they buy low and sell high, but that's not what happens. Most people buy high and sell low. Mm-hmm. And so to have that confidence, though, to buy low, you have to really know what you're talking about. You may not be right, but to me, it's having the confidence because I've done the research.
Wait 1 second here. What about if you do the homework and the thesis doesn't work out? When do you say to yourself, okay, I was wrong?
Oh, sure. I mean, and that happens. Mm-hmm. It has to be
rarely to Steph, but it does happen.
It does happen. If there's a complete change in the thesis that I had to start, if there's a complete change, and that could be a management change, that could be maybe not a management change and a complacent management team, or massive market share losses, or AI disruption, there's all kinds of things. So I think it all depends, but certainly I'm always evaluating the stocks, the portfolio, the allocations that I have to see if I'm comfortable. Most of the time I'm not comfortable, which is probably a good sign.
I think that investing is not dissimilar to many decisions that you make in your life, where there's a basket of knowns and there's a basket of unknowns. Through my career, what I've tried to do is I've really tried to, at each of these very important inflection points, whether it was, Liberation Day last year, during COVID, during the sovereign debt crisis, during the great financial crisis, what I've tried to do is really think about what are the knowns in the situation, and are those knowns justified by the research that we've done? Is there rationale behind those knowns? And then understanding that in order for me to be a successful investor, I have to get comfortable being, to your point, uncomfortable in the unknowns. And I think that when you take that approach, you need to find some things that you're going to anchor your thesis to, and those become the foundation of your argument. So again, I'm not always right about what that fundamental foundation is in my investment decision, but what it helps me to do is it helps me to have an anchoring point that I can go back to and say, okay, this is what I believe on a given day, this is what I think will occur. If this occurs, here are the risks, and of course, the opportunities on the other side of that. It can be very easy to be conservative for an extended period of time. What is difficult is actually taking on that risk and understanding that something that is disruptive here could be a creative dislocation here. And so I think this concept of knowns and unknowns, good decision makers don't have any additional knowledge typically. What they do is that they stay anchored to the knowns and they continue to come back to that decision to make sure that they're staying on the right path.
That's so true. And that's why we're doing the Confidence Summit. It's to provide and propel women to figure out a path forward that confidence and the decision making of just jumping in is the most important, especially on the managing money side. You know, you look at the little boy on the playground and the little girl on the playground. Little girl is going to be totally conservative, and the little boy is going to be jumping off trees and breaking limbs, right? It's innate.
Yeah, sure.
And so to have two very successful women here that are managing money that have to be decisive, that are in a whole world of chaos all day long with the news cycle, it's exactly what you guys point out. Is very important.
And you mentioned reading. I think reading is really, really important. And that's part of the research process. But it's not just reading a research report. It's reading whatever your favorite publication is. Mine happens to be Barron's, The Economist. I mean, there's all kinds of things to read just to get educated.
Yeah, but you guys geek out on that. Right?
We do.
So my daughters, I would come home and it's like, oh, I had this wonderful conversation with Stephanie Link. She says that Barron's is her favorite. Girls, would you like to read Barron's? They'd be like, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
So the greater population that aren't in the,
I totally understand that, but that's why
How do we spread the word?
People ask, how do I get more knowledge in terms of investing? And I'm like, well, it might not be fun for you.
It's fun for us.
It's fun. Right. It's fun for all of us. But maybe it's not fun for them. But I say Barron's because it's easy to read.
It's great.
You can understand it, and it's so broad. By the way, when I first started reading Barron's, when I was 22, I had to read it 3 times. I had to have a highlighter too, as well. So talk about geeking out. But there are things that you can do to educate yourself so that you do gain a little bit more confidence. Because you don't have confidence if you don't know, right? And so knowledge is really powerful.
And I would say in this increasingly dynamic world, it doesn't have to just be kind of financial publications, just reading just straight news sources from outside of the United States and reading about, the perspective of other people. I also find that, in many ways, I was an econ history double major, and I think there's a lot to benefit from, kind of thinking about what's happened in the past. Sure. The past does not predict the future, but there are often similarities. And so I think that to the point of being educated and finding the right thing, I would say also AI is very helpful in this. So Stephanie talked about long research reports. You can sort of get the summary points and then decide if it's something that, wow, I'm actually really interested in that conclusion.
Well, I'll
go ahead and read the rest of the research report. I'm doing a lot of that now, whereas I'm not relying on that summary necessarily, but if it comes up, as I'm reading through those bullet points, something interests me, then I'll go and read the long form piece. So I think you can also be more efficient with your time now in terms of determining, is this something that actually is going to add that different perspective, that different lens to my decision-making process? I'm going to spend some time on that.
I mean, how lucky are people that are just getting into this business that have the internet to ask questions?
Well, I always say this. Everyone says they don't have time. And I said, if you give me your iPhone right now, we can go in and find out how much time everyone spends on social media. So let's use social media as an advantage, right? Change your daily digital. Smartphones are listening to all of us, right? But more importantly, start liking and subscribing Stephanie and Shannon and everybody, like the Few podcast, because then it's going to start serving you more and more and more and more.
Yes.
Therefore, that in just your few minutes of a day is going to help you.
100%.
Agree.
All right, so let's talk about women, wealth, and power. So this is like a big thing here in terms of how we see this, or how women see this too, which is, here's the question: how can women reframe wealth not as greed, but as freedom, security, and impact?
It's a really interesting question. It's one that I get quite frequently when I talk about, especially working with female clients, next gen, surviving spouses. I think the challenge with this is that there is a perception, one, that women are looking to emulate a similar experience as men in terms of their financial identity. And so I think first and foremost, it's not necessarily about greed or a number or performance. It should be about women really focusing on their financial identity. Like, what is my relationship with money? How do I feel about money? Is this something that perpetuates my lifestyle? Is it something that I look at as creating the opportunity or the option to support my elderly parents, my children, my philanthropic causes? I think starting with that, because I do think there is a perception that if you're spending too much time thinking about your financial affairs, that you're doing that from a place of just building your wealth for selfish purposes. And I think women really push against that, but they should be able to take the time to really understand what wealth means. I love to travel. That is my number one thing that I would like to do with the money that I earn. And so I think, but women have to be encouraged to really sit down and think about their relationship with money, what they want that money to do for them, and then understanding that that can be both selfish and unselfish, if you will, in terms of wanting to balance those things out. So for me, that's the advice that I give to women, is to sit down and say, what is your relationship with money? How do you feel about money? Have you even thought about that? And, it goes well beyond security, because I think that's pretty easy for us to do, to sit down. We can do a wealth plan for them and show them that they have the capacity and the comfort. It's that relationship and understanding that this should do more for you than just what's in that piece of paper.
That's awesome. Very good. Stephanie?
So I don't think we need to apologize to want to make money. Right out of college, that was my number one goal. I just wanted to make money. I wanted to be successful and I wanted to make money, and I was unapologetic about it, but it wasn't common to say that at all. But I go back to what I said earlier about my dad, and him saying, whatever you do, you want to have financial independence. And over the years, it meant different things to me along the way, but it's powerful. Having financial independence, you can do whatever you want. And I did not grow up seeing that with my mom. My mom was a teacher, amazing person, but she didn't have money because teaching just doesn't pay. But my father was the success person, and he was the money maker. And my mom didn't have as much financial independence. I remember seeing her ask my father, oh, can we get this? Can we do that? And I said, I don't want that. I mean, I still talk to my husband about, can we get this? Can we get that? But I know I can do whatever I want to do. And to me, that is so incredibly liberating. Like, not having to worry about the money aspect, and knowing that I earned it, and knowing that it was me, I did it. And that's just something that I feel good about, and I think women should aspire to have this independence and to do whatever it is that they want to do.
Let's talk about leadership balance and wellness. What does balance actually look like to you? Not in theory, but in practice. Stephanie, take this one.
I don't really have a lot of it. I think, honestly, it's trying to have it all. When I first got into this business, I did not think that I could have a career and a family. In fact, some of my mentor females that are older didn't have kids. It was the one or the other. It was career or being a mom and having kids. And that's how I started out thinking, I don't think I can do both. But over time, I realized that, yeah, you can. You just need a lot of help. I have the world's best nanny. My daughter is 18 and I still have her because she's now my house manager. And I need that because we travel all the time. You travel too. We travel all the time, and there's so many things that are going on in our lives that you just need a right-hand person. And so my husband and my daughter and my nanny, and she's our family, and me. And that's what really has made me been able to do the things that I want to do. But that's what it takes. It takes a lot of help, I think, to have balance.
I think balance is different for every person. I can assure you that the number of people that admonish me for my lack of work-life balance is it's a very large number of people. I think what's really helped me in terms of having a family and being able to balance not only my job, but also volunteer opportunities, mentorship, giving time, saying yes. There are a lot of people right now who are like, you have to say no, you have to protect your time. I love to say yes, though. That's what fulfills me. And so the way that I do that...
That's what brought you here today.
That's what... For me, it's about perspective. Yeah. Steph, I think you're going to probably agree with this. Most of what I do every day, and whether I'm working with clients or advisors, mentees, or my family, what they're asking of me in that given moment is the very most important thing to them. And so what I have to kind of take a step back and say, okay, everybody, what they're asking of me is going to be, this is the most important thing in their day. But I'm going to have 15, 20, 30 of those. And so what do I need to do? I need to make sure that in my mind, I'm constantly and ruthlessly prioritizing where should I spend that moment of my time? How much of my effort, how much of myself am I giving to that? And being protective of the things that I just can't do. And so that's delegating, that's asking for help. That's pushing back on your team and saying, hey guys, I trust that you can do this one on your own. And if maybe it doesn't go exactly the way I would have wanted it, but that's fine, because in that moment I made that decision. So I think it's less about this prescribed view of having it all, and it's more about creating that perspective every day about where is my time most needed. And sometimes that's going to be, playing cards with my kids, and sometimes that's going to be getting on a call about what's happening in the Middle East, which is what I did this morning. So it's it's all right. About those, balancing that, but it's constant process, and it resets every day.
Let's talk about legacy, impact, and next generation. What kind of legacy do you hope your work leaves to the next generation of women investors?
I think it's that women can do whatever it is that they want to do. And if you put your mind to it and you work hard, but you have to work really, really hard. It's not going to be easy, and there are going to be some miserable times, miserable days where you just want to cry, but you just push ahead because it's so worth it. It's so worth, again, having it all, like having the family, having this great career, having great friends, being on TV, being recognized in an airport. It's all doable, but it really does take a lot of help. And so I just hope that I can be the great mentor to people that I got, so that I can help coach and train them, and hopefully to be as successful as they want to be.
Well, you are an inspiration.
Thank you.
And you are somebody that everybody looks up to, as well as you, Shannon. Shannon, why don't you tell us about that one?
I'll give a short story if you'll allow me. When I was looking to be promoted to CIO, which I was in my late 30s, and looking at the CIO that was in the position currently that was going to be leaving, I didn't see myself being that same type of CIO. And my mentor encouraged me to think about doing it my way. And I think for women, you talked about, how we were told to dress, how we were told to act early on in our careers. You need to, I was told the opposite. I was told wear suits, carry yourself frankly in a more masculine way in meetings, because for me, it's about women bring a lot to the table. We bring a differentiated view. We bring a different way of working with people. We tend to be more collaborative. We tend to have a higher EQ. Those are superpowers in this world of finance, and having and so really my legacy, I hope, is that women come in and they figure out who they want to be in the workplace, and that they pursue that with authenticity. And I feel that every day that goes by, I become more and more authentic in who I am in my role, and I hope that women can see that they can be themselves, but that they can also be successful.
Very inspiring, and I know that a lot look up to you as well, Shannon. Those are great pearls of wisdom here, and this is really good. I have one final question, and the question really comes down to, Stephanie, you and I have college-age daughters. What's the conversation for women today in college with the advent of AI?
Go ahead, you can take that first.
I think that we are undergoing this transformative change, but it's not unlike transformative changes that we've had in industry previously. And I still come back to, there's very clearly a need for human connection and communication, and I think that kind of a subjectivity that only humans can bring. And actually, I agree with Steph a bit on this. When I think about having my daughter go to college, which will be in a couple of years, but I also think about some of the college students that I'm mentoring today. What I'm trying to impart upon upon them is that having technical skills is fantastic. Those technical skills may change over the next few years in terms of what's required for a given position, but having the ability to collaborate, work as a team, be reliable, work hard, those are still going to be skills that are going to be necessary to be successful in this next phase.
Yeah.
And so really thinking about being, well-rounded, being connected, collaborating, those are things that I think we should be continuing to focus on. And the technical aspects of any given role, if you can figure out how to be a good decision maker, if you can figure out how to be persuasive, I think you can be successful across different industries, even in a transformative period such as the one we're in now.
I mean, I think that I agree with every single thing that you said. We hire people to work for us, right? And what do you look for in these people? I look less at the colleges that they went to, and I look more at what they did in terms of internships.
Sure.
And what did they do? What interests them? And why? I told my daughter, we have no idea what AI is going to do, but she still wants to get into the business industry anyway. And I said, there are going to be jobs that are created that you don't even know exist right now.
Good point.
I mean, just look at the influencer market. It's going to be a $500 billion total addressable market to be an influencer. And that is a generation, and that's a thing I don't really quite get, but it's a thing for sure, right? It's a big, big market. But if you want to go into the business world, try to find things to do, take extra classes, go out there and find creative ways to make you look different on a resume. And then, to Shannon's point, you got to be the hard worker, you got to be someone that's reliable, you got to under-promise, over-deliver, all of those things. We all want those things. AI is not going to take over those things. So it'll be different for them versus what it was for us, but I don't think we should be nervous about it. I think we should embrace it.
With that, we're going to leave it at that. You guys are wonderful. I appreciate it. Shannon, Stephanie, thank you for your time today. Our audience of the Few podcast is going to learn so much for tuning in. So we're so grateful that you spent some time with us and our audience today, and we're looking forward to having you back at some point in time in the future.
Thank you for having us.
Wow, that was amazing. I feel so inspired by both Shannon and Stephanie, and I hope that our listeners feel just as inspired. And they're a great example to me, and I think that they'll be a great example to all of our listeners as well. I've gotten so much from the Confidence Summit this year. I feel so inspired leaving. I hope that everyone who attended and everyone who's listening to our podcast feels the same. Thank you as always for joining. Look out for our next episode, and please tune into our social medias and subscribe to the podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by David Field Producer. It is produced and directed by David Field and Kristen George. And it's mix, edit, and socials by Kristen George and Sam Aguirre. Schein Wealth Management is a group of investment professionals registered with Hightower Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, and with Hightower Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities, LLC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is not indicative of current or future performance and is not a guarantee. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data and information referenced herein are from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analysis, prices, or other information contained in this research is provided as general market commentary. It does not constitute investment advice. Schein Wealth Management and Hightower shall not in any way be liable for claims and make no expressed or implied representations or warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the data and other information, or for statements or errors contained in or omissions from the obtained data and information referenced herein. The data and information are provided as of the date referenced. Such data and information are subject to change without notice. This document was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are solely those of Schein Wealth Management and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.